welcome to the Texas Talks podcast. I am your host, Brad Swale. Today I have with me Russell Woodward. He is the Director of Food Services and Industry Relations at Nolan Ryan Brands. He's also the Chairman of the Texas Restaurant Foundation Board of Directors. Mr. Woodward, how are you?
I'm doing well, Brad. Thank you for the invitation. It's good to be with you today.
Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you. So I guess we'll start with the basics, right? So what is the Texas Restaurant? Well, let's start with Nolan Ryan. So what do you do with the Nolan Ryan Brands?
Yeah, so my role at Nolan Ryan Brands is to lead the food service effort, the Good Stock by Nolan Ryan brand that we take into the food service and restaurants. So meat company, Nolan's been a rancher for 50 years and been in the meat business for 20. So he's very passionate about the brand. And we've got a retail group. I lead up the food service group. So that's my role there. And then for the foundation, the Texas Restaurant Foundation, I have the privilege and honor of serving as the chairman of that board this year and working with them. And so bringing basically the Texas Restaurant Foundation is the workforce arm of the Texas Restaurant Association. And the work that we do there is really to educate and some advocate, but promote and do the work to build the workforce that is needed for the Texas restaurant and hospitality industry into the future, and the next generation of workers and those that come into that role and use that as their career. So that's the work that we do. We're a 501c3. The Texas Restaurant Association has 23 chapters across the state that work in those local areas, represent over 55,000 restaurant operators in the state of Texas. Not all of those are members, but that's the number that we have. And that is, Brad, that's about $95 billion a year in revenue that comes to Texas through restaurant hospitality. So we're one of the larger employers in the state and bringing the revenue to local communities. Whether it's an urban area or a rural area. It's very important in terms of that community and what the restaurants represent there. And, nationally, that's a little over $1 trillion. And as we look at what the foundation's goal is and the work that we do around primarily workforce, there's other things that we do, but that's the basis of that. And so as we look at that, we're going to need somewhere around 200 to 225,000 additional workers in the restaurant, hospitality, food service space by 2030, the next 6 years. That seems like a really big number. So we've got a lot of work to do in providing programs and educational opportunities to bring people into that space for career opportunities.
What's this 200? How many? 200,000? What was it?
200 and about 225,000 added jobs over the next 6 years is what we're looking to fill.
Yeah,
is what we're going to be needed as the state grows. It's going to be over $100 billion in total revenue to the state of Texas over the next 5 years. That's annually, right? So now it's about $95 billion.
Yeah. So 220,000 or so additional workers by 2030. That's a big ask. That's a lot. I mean, does that include waiters, bussers, chefs, sous chefs, line cooks, all that stuff? I mean, everything?
It does. Yeah. That's all of those aspects of managing a restaurant, whether you're working the front of the house, the back of the house, whether you're a GM, ordering all the things that it takes to do those daily operations. So all of those positions are included in that. Absolutely.
So there's going to be a restaurant boom in Texas over the next 6 years.
Well, there's a lot of growth opportunity. A lot of people move into the state. The industry is, still recovering from COVID. Business is good. I'll say that, the first part of the year is always a little, people, you ask the operators. We were just with our board here last weekend in the Dallas area meeting and planning for the year. And most of them said January and February were just, okay, it was good. But looking forward to the remainder of 2024 is progress is there and there's lots of opportunity, but still recovering from COVID, still lots of challenges there. In addition to workforce and getting employees in and being able to stay open and serve those customers that are coming, I think the numbers that we looked at just this past week were that in any given week, about half the Texas population goes and has a dinner at a restaurant,
Sure.
and 65% of them are going to have a restaurant meal off premise. So there is a lot going on in the food service industry, a lot of growth, still a lot of challenges, right? So, whether it's inflation, supply chain, any number of legislative things that are there that the association handles and deals with on their advocacy side, but you got swipe fees and just lots of business challenges. But the one that the foundation really focuses on, Brad, is the workforce element, and making sure that we've got the people that we need so that the business can continue to be successful
Yeah.
and thrive here in the state.
So how does the foundation achieve that? What is a lot of education and advocacy, of course. You guys are trying to get, entice and 200,000 plus more service employees, restaurant employees.
Yeah, so there are a couple of programs that we have been involved with over the years. My role and my time at the foundation goes back probably 15 to 20 years. Been in the beef industry all my life and worked for a number of organizations that supported the foundation and have been there serving. And one of the areas that we have focused on and continue to focus on is the high school level culinary programs and hospitality. There's a curriculum that was developed by the National Restaurant Association that we use here in Texas called Pro Start. And so that curriculum now is being used in over 225 high school programs across the state of Texas. There are additional ones. So that career and technology and education piece that we're finding coming back into high schools is very strong and growing, and culinary and hospitality is an important part of that. So in those 225 schools that are using that curriculum, that Pro Start curriculum, there's a little over or right at 27,000 students that are involved in those programs in the state of Texas alone, not even looking at the rest of the country. So that's one area that we continue to support. So providing a curriculum that helps them understand, whether starting out with what we call serve safe, so the basics of safety, sanitation, and how you operate a restaurant, to all the aspects that go through. Those teachers and instructors use that curriculum to train those students so that they can come in the industry. I remember that, I grew up on a farm and ranch up in North Texas, and been in the cattle and beef industry my whole life. And I remember the very first job, that I had. I can't say my very first job, but my first job that wasn't at home working for Dad was at a pizza restaurant. So I got to, learn how to clean the back room and make some pies, right? So that was that experience, I think, is what a lot of people find themselves at somewhere in their lifetime, that they worked at a restaurant, making burgers, making pizzas, doing tacos or something. And it's still one of the few areas that you can come into working, washing dishes, working the cook line, working the front of the house, and make that a career and build that up. And then maybe one day own a restaurant. We've got plenty of folks that sit on our board, the foundation, that's exactly how they got their start. And now they're owners, operators, and general managers. So that's one way that we step into and really help to build the workforce arm for the industry, is through these high school programs and the Pro Start program. So we're excited about that. And even though it's a curriculum, the students do have an opportunity to have some competitions and compete and get to know each other. And each year we have our Texas Pro Start Invitational Competition, where we invite those culinary programs and students to come and participate in a culinary competition and a management competition. And that's going to be held here at the Waco Convention Center on March the 9th. And we're excited about that. We've got, I believe, 45 or 46 culinary teams that are going to be there. It's a 5-person team, and then they have to make a 3-course dinner and present that to the judges. And the winner of that will get to represent Texas at the National Pro Start competition, which will be held in May in Baltimore this year. So we've done really well at the national competition over the last couple of years with our Pro Start program here in Texas, not only on the culinary side, but in addition to working in the kitchen, there's the business operation of a restaurant. And so we have a management competition as well, in addition to the culinary competition, where students put together a business plan for a concept and present that to the judges, everything from menu to operations to layout, all the things that it takes to run that restaurant concept. And then they present it, make their presentation, and get judged. So we're excited about that happening at the Waco Convention Center coming up on March 9th here for our Texas Pro Start Invitational. So that's when we think about the high school programs in those areas, that's one way that we support the workforce through the foundation. And and there's some others that we'll talk about here, but that's kind of our primary one. And I've had the opportunity to really be a part of that for the last 15 or 20 years, not only through the Pro Start for the students, but the educators are an important part of that as well.
Yeah.
Brad, when it comes to those culinary educators and hospitality educators, learning about the Pro Start curriculum and honing their skills, whether they come from industry and come into teaching, or they've been in teaching for their whole career and they're moving into the culinary and hospitality space. Excuse me, we provide them with an annual training, our Pro Start Educators Training Conference every summer. It's a 3-day hands-on program that we offer every year for those teachers. We bring 100 of them each year into a kitchen somewhere. This year, we're going to be in San Antonio at St. Philip's College. They're a great partner for the foundation and the association as well. They've got a great new facility that we can use to bring teachers in to train them. So that group of individuals is one important piece of our workforce and how we're trying to train up and hit that number over the next 6 years.
Yeah, I'm aware of the. My nephews went to Austin High School. I know there's a culinary program there, so I'm sort of aware of it, but it wasn't there when I went to Austin High. That's okay. I still learned how to cook somehow. So I'm just curious. So Texas, you have this competition, and then the winners go on to the national level, right? Sort of, as competitions are wont to do, right?
Correct.
Does Texas win with the barbecue? Do we just go straight brisket? What do we do?
Well, for the culinary competition, most of the time they can prepare whatever protein and main dish they want. So they got an appetizer, a main entree, and then a dessert. So beef's a part of that many times, but there's some other proteins that find their way onto those plates for those teams, and it really works well. So we've got some steaks, some tenderloins, some ribeyes. You'll find some tri-tip. Brisket's not really a big part of the that particular program and what you find there, because it's really geared towards fine dining.
Yeah,
not always, but that's kind of the focus.
Are you saying that Texas barbecue brisket is not fine dining? Come on.
That might get in trouble for saying that here in Texas, right? But anyway, but yeah, brisket's an important part of our industry and what we're doing. But for the competition, we don't see that too much. Although this year you bring up barbecue and briskets.
Yeah.
We are going to be cooperating with an organization that's going to bring some high school barbecue cooking teams to Waco and be a part of that competition. It's kind of a new thing that we're doing. And so we're excited about having them there to showcase some of the work that is happening in the barbecue space with high school barbecue teams across Texas.
Yeah, with all those steak options, I'm curious how I can sign up to be a judge. I know they're only in high school, but
how to get you there.
Yeah, I know they're only in high school, but I'm sure the steaks are fantastic.
They can cook some pretty good food, yes, sir.
Yeah, they can. I bet. So, all right, you mentioned COVID a little bit earlier, and I think that sort of ties in also to supply chain issues and a lot of other things going on in the restaurant space. Obviously during the COVID pandemic with the lockdowns and everything, it was big news back then. A lot of restaurants closed. They just couldn't make it. And so of course, I'm sure some have reopened, but the ones that stayed open, have they fully recovered from that? Are they still reeling from, I don't know, some secondary or, third level effects?
There was obviously still some effects from that period of time in our history just recently where restaurants had to adapt and pivot and all sorts of things to make that. And most of it was in the to-go space, alcohol to go and food service. And so being able to provide things to consumers for those on the go meals and having food at home that you made at the restaurant, right? So that to go piece is still very large and growing. I think the ones that figured out how to execute that well continue to do so, and it continues to be an important part of their business and their business model as they adapted and changed and moved into that. And I think that as we move forward, food costs will continue to be a front and center item that restaurateurs are going to have to deal with from an inflationary standpoint. You have historical highs and lows of proteins and other food costs, and they will look at those and figure out how to make that work. But other things that will help them in that space. I think that the social media and technology helped a lot of restaurants make it through from an ordering standpoint. We all use our phones every day for just about everything. And so food ordering is an important piece of that. So the restaurants that were successful figured out how to adapt and make that a part of their everyday operation, and will continue to do so from being on the social media sites from a promotional standpoint, but just general operations and taking advantage of all the technology now that is available to make their systems more efficient and more profitable for them. So that's a big part of their success, and the things that the association side will advocate for and protect those operating systems wherever they can. So you mentioned AI earlier in our kind of our pre conversation there.
Yeah.
And so that's really anybody's guess. There's lots of things that are happening in that space, and I think operators will be innovative, and the ones that are on the front, early adopters, are going to find ways to incorporate those things when they become available into their space to make that experience and improve not only their customer experience but their employees experience. Culture is a very important piece of success for operators.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot there. So I know I can't imagine. I mean, I guess I could if I spent some time on it, how AI might be, implemented in the restaurant business, but certainly automation, right, is out there. I know some fast food restaurants are, testing, uh, having the screen that you go up and order. There's no one there to take your order. Have that sort of automation stuff. Is that, I don't know. Is that a concern for the foundation? How are y'all approaching that?
Well, I think from a workforce standpoint, if that's kind of the question that you're asking,
Sure.
and how artificial intelligence or those kinds of consumer engagement pieces will impact, uh, that's going to be an important part. There are certain things within the restaurant operation that are going to continue to need and have someone to manage it. I think the real advantage for our operators are to take the learnings from larger multi-unit national chains that are doing fun, innovative, expensive kinds of things, as those things become more and more available, to incorporate them in to be able to, for example, the simple stuff, analyze data in a real-time mode to know what we're selling and how we're selling it from 8 to noon or noon to 2, or for our dinner operations, to know what we need to be able to set up for and how to get our lines best prepared so that we're not over preparing or under preparing certain items. So I think at the basic business level, you have those kinds of things that helps with ordering and makes that process more efficient. So I don't have to spend 4 hours trying to figure out what I need to order based upon my sales and all those kinds of things. I can do that in a very quick and efficient manner. And then you have the customer experience piece as well, in terms of how you order and what sort of technology engages with you to place that order, and then how it flows through the kitchen and gets back to the consumer. So, there are lots of things that are happening in that space every year. At the National Restaurant Show, we see stuff that is there, and even at the Texas Restaurant Show that's going to be this July in San Antonio at the convention center there. We're looking forward to that. I believe it's on the 12th and 13th of July. We'll have a lot of our partners and restaurant operators and allied folks there that will be showing some of these things for our restaurant operators to take advantage of and use. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that space, Brad.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys do advocacy and education on the workforce front, as you said. I know that there's I haven't seen much of it in the past couple months, but over the past year or so, there's been a lot of news stories, and I don't know how widespread it is, but when it happens, it gets a lot of coverage of unionization in with specific businesses. I mean, obviously, Starbucks is a big one. I know that's a more of a national chain. I don't know how y'all would fit into that, but like local pizza restaurants and stuff like that. Um, and they advocate for higher wages, more better treatment, better schedules, maybe healthcare, stuff like that. How does the foundation, with education and advocacy, are y'all pushing for better? I mean, not certainly better, but how are y'all pushing for better health, better? Gosh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, just a better culture, better
Yeah, yes,
operations, better things for our employees, right? Because we've got a lot of employees. One of the
yeah,
largest employers in the state is an industry. So when it comes to the things, the association side, protects and advocates for those things from a business perspective. But when it comes to the employee and what they've got available to them, so that they can remain healthy, again, that culture is really important. We've got programs and services that we offer through our preferred partners like Teladoc that only cost our members and their employees $9 a month to be able to access health care, not only physical health care, but mental health care for their employees. And you can do that right on your phone, right? You can call and you can make an appointment. You can do an appointment on your phone, or you can schedule to go in, and those services are available. So those are the kinds of programs that we work with our partners across the state, providers, as well as with through the association and the government entities to provide those kinds of things for employees so that they can be successful not only at work but at home with their families, because that's an important part of it, as we all know, from healthcare and mental health care.
yeah, absolutely. So the obviously Texas is a very large state. Everyone knows that, and we have a lot of urban centers, but certainly a lot of it is rural. And every time I drive through a rural town, small town, there's restaurants out there, and they're doing what they're doing, and sometimes it's great food. Uh, is there a difference in the advocacy and education between urban centers and rural areas?
So the Restaurant Association has 23 chapters across the state.
Okay.
Very Texas is very diverse, as you just mentioned,
Yeah.
not only geographically but in our population and in our towns. Right, everything from the urban to the suburban and rural outlets that are out there. So those chapters help those communities that are in those spaces to address their needs. Some of them are vastly different in, say, Dallas, Fort Worth, or Houston than they might be in Montgomery or some small town in Central Texas or wherever it happens to be, or my hometown in Decatur, right? So it's growing, and so there are things there that they're going to be advocating for at the local level to help their businesses be successful, whether that's zoning or rules that apply there at the local level, and then how those filter up to the state level. One of the things that we kind of combine on, so those 23 chapters and the work that they do locally, and then those folks serve at the state level, not only on the association board but the foundation board as well, bring those concerns and those things to us. And so in addition to things like Teladoc that is available to not only the folks in an urban setting but also rural, we also have childcare program that the foundation is working with partners on to provide to those. That again, from the health of the business to the health of the family. And childcare is one of those areas that employees and employers struggle with. So we're working with some folks and some partners to be able to provide that. And the chapter is an important way to help implement and roll those out and make those local operators aware of those programs, help them implement it, help them find the resource that they can utilize to improve their culture and improve their community.
Yeah. Are those programs like the Teledoc and the child care services, are those well known in the restaurant industry? Like if I went and got a job at, I don't know, just whatever restaurant here locally, um, Is that something that I would be made aware of pretty quickly, or should be made aware of pretty quickly? It's just, it seems like something that's a good deal, and there's a lot, you guys are doing good work trying to help the service industry, but I don't hear a lot of the service industry talking about it. And I'm just wondering, is that, I don't know, is it like a little known secret or something like that? What is is
Well,
it
that's
well
a
known?
great question, great comment. Some of the things that we're working with our providers is to do that very thing, to make those operators know about the program, find a way to promote it through our through the efforts that we have, so that those employees can take advantage of. So it's growing in its awareness, but it's got a long way to go.
Yeah, well, with you guys are working hard, I know, to get that out there, and it sounds like there's some y'all are still growing it and figuring out stuff, and but it's cool that y'all are doing that.
Yeah.
So going back to the rural versus urban restaurants and everything like that, and even from urban center to urban center, I don't know, Austin to Houston or whatever, is the regulatory framework, is it pretty consistent across Texas, or do cities have a lot of leeway to sort of make their own regulations? And maybe one place is more business friendly than another, or restaurant friendly than another. I don't know. Are the regulatory framework, is it pretty even?
When it comes to the regulatory framework, Brad, from city to city and the statewide, it does vary. There is a lot of variation there, and that's the importance of those chapters, and for our folks to be members and engage with those chapters so they can learn what they are, and how to deal with challenges that come up at the local level. And the association at the state level tries to help at the state advocate for those things to make less of a challenge, if you will, in areas that they can bring efficiency to the legislative and rulemaking regulatory framework, not only at the state level, but at the local level as well. So that's the job that really the association sets themselves up for,
Sure.
and does a good job at working at.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of great work, and obviously the association is as well trying to advocate for not only businesses, but on the foundation's part, trying to advocate for service workers. Um, is there a message, or I don't know, is plea the right word? I don't know. A message out there to you guys trying to get 200,000 plus people to enter that workforce, enter that industry, to fill those jobs. It's a growing industry in Texas. Is there something that you want people to know outside of, like, hey, your high school student can sign up for this program at their school, learn about the industry? I'm not in high school, right? Maybe podcasting
Right.
doesn't work out for me. I don't know. Hopefully it does. But what would you want people to know going forward in those 6 years? What's it going to be like? Why should they get involved?
That's a great question, Brad, in terms of the pathway to get into the industry as a career in food service and hospitality. There's lots of opportunity there. So, in addition to the high school level, we also work, I mentioned St. Philip's earlier, but we also work with Dallas College and Collin College, and a number of the post secondary or collegiate level programs that have culinary and hospitality. They're a part of that as well. So as those students flow through, and then you've got the other areas that we're working on as well. I didn't mention it, but we're working with there's lots of acronyms in our industry. So I'm going to say it as an acronym, then I'll tell you what it is. But
Please.
it's TDCJ, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and their reentry and integration program.
Okay.
So we're partnered with them on all those folks that are receiving training while they're incarcerated in the areas that are important for the food service. And then we bring our partners and our operators in and give them a chance to connect through websites and other venues so that they can have that second chance hiring. First chance, second chance, third chance, as they come out and are looking to re-enter and reintegrate. There's a large population there that we can tap into. There's other audiences that are out there, whether they're in school or coming out of the military, or looking for career opportunities. The message that I would tell you is that the Restaurant Association and the Restaurant Foundation and your local chapter of those is a great resource to tap into, to find that pathway and get the education and training needed to jump in. And as an employer, if you're a restaurant operator, another great resource to tap in to find an avenue for those employees that you may be trying to find or having a hard time finding. We've got, I'll say recruiters, but groups and partners that partner with us at the foundation that do just that. They help find, locate, and place employees in your restaurant, and then find them the training they need so that they're successful, connect them with the program so that not only they're successful with their first day, but at 30 days, 60 days, and a year later, they're still continuing to be successful, and they're improving the culture of their operation. They're improving their businesses and profit. And for those employees, it's about improving their lifestyle and their home life through health care and child care and all those things that are there, and a great income and a great career. And that just lifts the whole community. So, the foundation, I like to think we're trying to help raise the waterline. All boats come up with that as we do the work to of the foundation and improve the workforce industry or workforce opportunities for restaurant hospitality.
Yeah, that reintegration after being incarcerated is so important. That's really cool that y'all do that. Is there anything that you wanted to, as we wrap up here, anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
Well, I would just say that if you haven't had a chance to visit the website and look at all these things we've talked about here today, you can go to the Texas Restaurant Association website, or you can go to other places, your local chapter, and find that. Just when we think about food service and restaurants, whether that's your favorite barbecue place, burger, cafe, breakfast, Italian dinner, whatever those are important pieces of a community. Food brings us together, so we're trying to bring more people to the table across Texas to build those communities, make them have opportunities to continue to grow and be healthy as our state grows, as our community grows. You really, I mentioned to you a minute ago that the industry is a $95 billion industry here in Texas. So for every dollar somebody spends at a restaurant, it brings $2.20 to the community. So it's kind of got this multiplier effect when we think about that. So we not only enjoy a meal with our family or our friends at a restaurant, but that restaurant's an important component of a healthy community.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you everything that you do. We will put the links for the website and everything like that down in the description below. Russell Woodward, the Director of Food Services and Industry Relations at Nolan Ryan Brands, as well as the Chairman of the Texas Restaurant Foundation Board of Directors. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Brad.